Part 6. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 51. Chapter 51, Seizing Opportunities. Xianxia looked at them, sighed and shook his head. These people were all direct disciples of various peaks. With this state of mind, they really disgraced the Xuanhuan sect. In other words, BeautifulFemaleLead seems to be doing well. People outside could not find Xianxia, but they heard the sound of fighting not far away. They looked at each other and walked in the opposite direction without hesitation to avoid being implicated. BeautifulFemaleLead looked at their backs, sighed, and could only follow them. After all, they were in the same team. After they left, Xianxia came out of the space, looked towards the direction where the fight came from, and walked over quietly. Most of the people fighting at this time were disciples from the Xuanhuan sect who had come out for training. She went over to see what was going on. Within a moment, she saw the people fighting. They were indeed disciples of the Xuanhuan sect, but they were also people she didn't want to interact with, Miao Nagano's team. His team has a total of 10 people, all of whom are his followers. Their overall strength is not as good as BeautifulFemaleLead and others, but the monsters they encounter are not weak. Xianxia frowned and watched for a while. Miao Xianxia was attacked by a monster and fell to the ground not far from where Xianxia was hiding. He got up from the ground, and Xianxia had an idea and wanted to hear his voice. This time, she really heard something. Although the sect did not have this experience in the last life, BeautifulFemaleLead broke through to the king level because of the opportunity when she went out to collect herbs with her senior brothers. It was clearly said that this is where the monster appeared, so why didn't she find it? Xianxia was stunned. Miao Xianxia wanted to seize BeautifulFemaleLead's opportunity. He turned to look at the direction BeautifulFemaleLead and the others were walking in. Could it be that because of Miao Nagano's rebirth, BeautifulFemaleLead's fate had been changed? He did not go in this direction. What is the opportunity here for BeautifulFemaleLead that makes Miao Nagano so concerned about it? Inexplicably, Xianxia didn't want this opportunity to go to Miao Xianxia. Although he was a reborn son of luck, his character was so bad that Xianxia didn't want to see him at all. At a young age, I have had special thoughts about her. From now on, I don't need to think about it to know that she is not a person with single-minded feelings. Miao Nagano continued to fight depressedly. If he didn't kill the monster, all his people would be lost here, and his informants and errand boys in Xuanhuan sect would be gone. Seeing that Miao Nagano was fighting again, Xianxia glanced at the monster, which was a three-tailed red fox. In the fox clan, even the strength of the monsters can be seen because of their few tails. This fox has 3 tails, which shows that its demon power is above the intermediate level, which is similar to the gray-spotted wolf she killed before. Although Miao Nagano and the others were able to deal with it with some difficulty, no one had taken any life-saving measures. Killing the 3-tailed red fox was only a matter of time. What Xianxia is thinking now is that, according to Miao Nagano, the treasure guarded by the 3-tailed red fox should be the opportunity he was looking for in BeautifulFemaleLead. Thinking about it for a while, since it is guarded by a fox, it must be in a foxhole. There are 3-tailed red foxholes here and there. Xianxia patted Xuanhuan on her shoulder. Xuanhuan, do you know where the 3-tailed red fox lives? Xuanhuan said, I know, it's in the cave on the hillside in front. Take me there. Xianxia was immediately happy, the cloud was really useful. Led by Xuanhuan, they quickly found the fox's hole. Xianxia let go of her consciousness to check it out. There was no demonic power inside, indicating that the 3-tailed red fox lived alone. She ducked into the hole and saw a clover-like plant growing in the hole. When she took a closer look, she was pleasantly surprised. It was the 9-turn fairy grass. This kind of grass grows in an extremely harsh environment and is difficult to survive. You can imagine how precious this 9-turn fairy grass is. Who would have thought that it actually grows in a foxhole? As the name suggests, 9-turn immortal grass is a panacea for healing spiritual roots. As long as the spiritual roots are not completely dead, using the 9-turn immortal grass to refine the elixir can bring the spiritual roots back to life. If you break through to the king level, you can easily break through by taking the elixir pill. The opportunity that Miao Nagano mentioned for Baitang should be this 9-turn fairy grass, because Baitang current cultivation level is the peak of the 9th level of the spiritual level. He is indeed going to break through the king level and obtain the 9-turn fairy grass. Refining the fairy elixir can indeed allow him to successfully break through to the king level, and maybe there will be an unexpected surprise. Otherwise, Miao Nagano would not be so persistent in trying to take away Baitang opportunity. However, this opportunity is hers now, and she will not feel that she has taken away Baitang opportunity. With Baitang talent, even without the fairy pill, he will still break through to the king level, but sooner or later that's all. Yanxiangluo dug up the 9-turn immortal spirit grass without ceremony, dug out a lot of soil, and planted it in the space. Although the space is gray, there is land. Without sunlight, medicinal herbs may not be able to grow, but the spiritual energy is so abundant that at least it can keep the medicinal herbs alive. After digging the 9-turn fairy grass, Yanxiangluo scraped the foxhole again. Anyway, the fox can't come back, and the treasure it saved will no longer be used. Instead of taking advantage of Miao Xianxia, it is better to get it for yourself. Let's go. It was only then that I discovered that this 3-tailed red fox has a lot of things in store, and I also know its preferences. It likes all shiny things. Look, there are also spiritual stones, beads, gems, etc. rings and so on. It seems that the 3-tailed red fox robs the human race a lot. It's useless just to rob this storage ring, it can't use it either. After putting the storage rings together, she discovered that there were actually things inside the storage rings. The 3-tailed red fox couldn't take out the things inside, which was an advantage for her. She didn't look at it carefully, so she would look at it later when she has time. After making sure that the treasures of the 3-tailed red fox were clean, Yanxiangluo left the fox cave. Before the battle was over, she walked in the opposite direction. I feel a little proud, Miao Nagano, you have worked in vain and you have given me an advantage, but the 3-tailed red fox can be sold for a lot of money. Yun Tuan was disgusted, Master, these are not treasures. Then what is a treasure? Yanxiangluo has a special liking for medicinal herbs, so she naturally feels that the 9-turn immortal spirit grass is the biggest treasure. The treasures are only those that are unique in the world, such as the fire beads from before, Yun Tuan said arrogantly. The fragrance fell and she choked. Thinking about it, there are only 5 5-element beads in the world, one of the same. They are indeed unique treasures. Compared with the fire beads, what she searched for today is indeed not a treasure. However, those spiritual stones can assist in cultivation. As a direct disciple, you can only receive 10 high-grade spiritual stones in a month. These spiritual stones are quite a lot. Can you sense the treasure of genius? Yanxiangluo asked. Of course, Yun Tuan said arrogantly, but at the same time he was a little depressed. He couldn't even sense it. It was too weak now. Yun Tuan, you are so powerful, I will rely on you to find treasures from now on, Yanxiangluo said happily. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 52. Chapter 52, Fighting Pangolins. Yun Tuan thought about it, although it can find the treasure, it cannot take it away. Now the owner can take it away. The owner has space and the spiritual energy inside is very rich. It can practice and recover in it. The owner of the treasure will also put it in it. It can often seen. Who made her its master? Naturally, she should be pampered and she should look for more geniuses and treasures for her master in the future. There are some treasures in Wanghai Forest, but the master's current strength cannot go to those places, Even if there is space, the monsters there are too strong. If the master encounters them, he will have no chance to enter the space. Xuanhuan thought for a while. The pressure behind it can suppress some monsters, but powerful monsters will not be afraid of its pressure at this time, and its strength cannot be compared with those powerful monsters, otherwise it would not at the outer edge of Huanghai Forest. It doesn't matter. Let's hunt for treasures again in the future when my strength allows it. Yan Xianglue was not disappointed. She was very open-minded about what I gained and what I lost. Treasures can only be obtained by fate. This time she came to Huanghai Forest and she gained quite a lot. Master, there is an intermediate monster in front of me, which is just suitable for master to practice. Xuanhuan reminded her that she had already run away. If it were there, the monster would definitely run away. Yan Xianglue immediately prepared for battle and stared ahead, wondering what kind of monster appeared this time. A huge crawling monster appeared in front of her. Yan Xianglue carefully distinguished it. It should be a silver-armored pangolin. As you can tell from the name, the pangolin has a layer of silver armor-like armor on its body. It is extremely hard, but it can be used to refine weapons. The teachers love me so much. Therefore, its defensive capabilities are also very strong. The armor plates of the intermediate level silver armored pangolin can only be broken by people with a cultivation level above the king level. She has not even reached the spiritual level, so it is impossible to break through the defense of the silver armored pangolin. The only way to defeat the silver armored pangolin is to attack its weak points. It seems that the only ones left are its eyes and mouth. With her strength, Flying Lotus's attack will have no effect on the body of the silver-armored pangolin, but the enchanting bell should still be able to do it, but it's just not a last resort. She doesn't want to rely on the enchanting bell, which will not allow her to experience her true strength. Now she can only look for opportunities to attack the eyes of the silver-armored pangolin. These thoughts lasted only a moment. The silver-armored pangolin opened its mouth and an attack force rushed towards her. A line of earth escape was formed immediately, blocking her in front of her. At the same time, she quickly rolled on the spot to avoid it. The tudun was instantly shattered. At the same time, the huge claws of the silver-armored pangolin rushed towards Yan Xianglue, who had not yet gotten up, and photographed her. If this claw falls on her, she will instantly turn into a puddle of flesh. She didn't get up, and rolled away again. This time she rolled onto the silver-armored pangolin. Looking up, the belly of the silver-armored pangolin is also made of dense armor, with no attack points at all. Without hesitation, he continued to roll out of the body of the silver-armored pangolin, otherwise he would be crushed into a pulp. As she rolled out, the gold-type attack power came out one after another, falling on the silver-armored pangolin like a child hitting a musical instrument, making a crisp sound and playing a piece of music. Her attacks hit the silver-armored pangolin. It has no effect at all. Yang Xianglue lucked out and quickly avoided the pangolin's attack. The area around the battle soon became a mess, with collapsed trees and deep pits on the ground, all caused by the demonic power of the silver-armored pangolin. Yan Xianglue had to be very careful not to fall into the pit, otherwise the pangolin would not give her a chance to climb out. After a while, Yan Xianglue was already in a very embarrassed state, and most of her spiritual energy was consumed. If this continued, she would never be able to defeat the silver-armored pangolin. Staring at the pangolin's head with her apricot eyes, she couldn't catch the cub unless she entered the tiger's den. With a sudden thought, she dodged the attack of the silver-armored pangolin and ran towards it. She rolled and finally reached the pangolin, and then she used her spirit. He used his strength to grab the armor on it and quickly climb towards it. The silver-armored pangolin noticed that she was about to climb on it, and shook its huge body desperately, trying to shake her off. Yu Xianglue grabbed the armor piece to steady herself, her hands were cut by the armor piece, and they were dripping with blood. Then he didn't let go. As long as he was steady, he continued to climb up, aiming for the pangolin's head. Comparatively, the head of the silver-armored pangolin is the most flexible. Therefore, it is getting harder and harder for her to stabilize her body, and the clouds in the dark are trembling with fear. After finally climbing to the pangolin's neck, Yanxiangluo looked at the slightly protruding eyes of the silver-armored pangolin. With a thought, the flying lotus levitated and flew up, then released its leaves and attacked the pangolin's eyes. As the leaves flew out, flying lotus flew to the other side, and fired another leaf attack at the other eye. The speed change was extremely fast, which of course consumed a lot of Yanxiangluo's mental energy. When flying lotus levitates and flies out, she needs to use her mental power to override it. One after another, dozens of blades shot into the eyes of the silver-armored pangolin, and the vision suddenly turned dark. The silver-armored pangolin was furious and frightened, and its body shook violently. Yanxiangluo could not steady her body and was thrown away. "Go out." Then she turned around in the air. She saw the pangolin's huge mouth, and a light flashed in her mind. She had forgotten what her master did. She threw a poisonous pill, and it was thrown into the pangolin accurately. Mouth. Because she did not use her spiritual power, the silver-armored pangolin did not feel the attack power, and the poisonous pill was easily thrown into its mouth. Yanxiangluo then mobilized her spiritual power to protect herself, and used the force to roll when she landed. Although she suffered some injuries, she was not fatally or seriously injured. He got up and ran away. The pangolin was blinded by her attack and was fed a poison pill by her. It was already on the verge of life and death. The anger and unwillingness coupled with the struggle before death released its strongest demonic power. The demonic power was chaotic. Flying, even being scratched by the demonic force may be fatal. Even so, she only thought of using her strength to escape, and did not think of hiding in space. Only in this way could she gain experience. She didn't know that her decision allowed her to avoid being exposed in space. When she was fighting, the elder who protected her and found her again had been observing her in the dark. Twice she fought against an intermediate-level monster and won both times. The elder looked frightened and finally understood why the master of Thousand Poison Peak accepted her as his disciple. This girl is so cunning, just like her master before. There are many ideas and methods, and he is also very decisive. Look, he can still calmly feed a poisonous pill to a silver-armored pangolin after being thrown away. Yanxiangluo ran out of the attack range of the silver-armored pangolin, and then she stopped and turned to look over. Beauties, 9 levels of fragrance has been overhauled several times, and finally the dust has settled. It is almost a rewrite. I am sorry for the inconvenience of reading for everyone. Beauties who don't mind can read it again. I hope you can enjoy it as always. I like it, thank you for your continued support, okay. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 53. Chapter 53 Pain but Happiness. Looking at it, the huge silver-armored pangolin was twisting like a snake in pain. Not a single tree was left around. The pits it had previously attacked with its demonic power were filled with soil as it twisted around. The area around the silver-armored pangolin is empty. When you look up, you can see the blue sky and white clouds. Yanxiangluo glanced at her embarrassed self and felt the injuries on her body. Fortunately, they were all external injuries and not internal injuries, and she didn't take any pills. Although most of the elixirs she refines are of perfect quality, she cannot guarantee that there is no erysipelas at all. Taking the elixirs regularly will slowly accumulate erysipelas in the body, which is not good for practice and health. Therefore, she did not want to rely on pills unless she had to. This injury will heal in a few days. Yun Tuan jumped into her arms, obviously frightened by her fighting so hard. Yan Xianglou rubbed its soft little body. Don't worry, I won't make fun of my life. Only such experience that exceeds physical strength is the real experience, otherwise I wouldn't have come here in vain. You don't want to have I always been this weak, your master. Master, I will protect you. The voice of the cloud sounded in her consciousness. Well, I will also protect you. Yan Xianglou smiled. When she came to this world, Xuanhuan was the first person she trusted without any precautions. After all, there was a contract, and Xuanhuan would not betray anyone. Their lives were connected. At this moment, she felt like she was dependent on the clouds. A while passed, and the silver-armored pangolin's struggling movements slowed down and gradually stopped. Yan Xianglou walked over with Xuanhuan in her arms, and confirmed that the silver-armored pangolin was indeed dead. With a thought, she put the silver-armored pangolin into the kinkan bag containing the prey. Sigh, the kinkan bag is too small. It used to contain piebald snakes and gray-spotted wolves, but now it contains a silver-armored pangolin. It is already full and cannot contain any other prey. Fortunately, Pango space has been opened, otherwise we wouldn't be able to take away the next prey. Putting away the silver-armored pangolin, Yan Xianglou continued to practice and collect herbs. She still planted the herbs in the space. Then, if the cloud intentionally releases water, continue fighting the intermediate monsters. 10 days later, in addition to a lot of herbs planted by her, there were also a lot of corpses of monsters stacked up in Pango space. Her cultivation level had been promoted to another level, and she was now at the 8th level of the UN level. Yan Xianglou is very happy. If this continues, after the training is over, she will really be able to break through to the spiritual level as she wishes. Xuanhuan, please find a higher level monster for me to try. The previous intermediate monster cannot allow me to break through my physical limits, Yan Xianglou told Xuanhuan. Okay, Master. Xuanhuan began to look for the monsters at the peak of their strength among the intermediate monsters. The high-level monsters were absolutely unacceptable. The master's strength was to provide extra food for others. Although the elder responsible for protecting Yu Xianglou has never been put to use, he watched it with gusto. This girl is not bad, and she has good luck. The monsters she encounters are all mid-level. He knows that this is Xuanhuan's deliberate intention. Seeing that Yan Xianglou was promoted to the first level again, he was envious. How could anyone advance like this? Looking at the other boys and girls, they were so beautiful that they could not be found to be promoted to the first level. This girl has been promoted since she started training. Promoted 2 levels. There is less than half a month left, and it seems that he can advance to the next level. This talent cannot be overstated as monster. But when he saw that the monster that Yan Xianglou fought next was actually a monster that was about to break through to a high-level cultivation level, he became worried. Although this girl could fight beyond the next level, the monster's power was only a little higher, but its strength was still high. It's not even bad at all. He watched nervously as Yan Xianglou fought tenaciously. Several times he saw that she was about to be sacrificed, but the girl could barely escape. In the end, although she was seriously injured, she still defeated the mid-level peak strength of monsters. The elder was stunned. This girl's leapfrog combat ability seemed to have improved. Following Yan Xianglou these days made him feel that the sect master's decision was right. These children should be released to practice. In the sect, how could their cultivation strength improve so quickly? Look at the remarkable results in these 10 days. Each of them has become much smarter, and their combat effectiveness has been significantly improved. Yan Xianglou put away the corpse of the monster and took a healing elixir. The injury this time was not serious. It was the most serious injury since entering Wanghai Forest. However, the gain was not small. She felt that her level had improved again, which meant that as long as she accumulated enough spiritual power, she could break through the spiritual level. Although I am tired and in pain, I am very happy. The elder looked at the little girl who looked embarrassed and could not even recognize her appearance. The bright smile on her face was immediately infected. This girl really likes to work hard to practice. He can guarantee that among the children who come out this time, this girl will gain the most after returning. He was also very curious. The master of Thousand Poison Peak gave his beloved disciple a few rings to collect items, and she kept away so many monsters. He also collected so many medicinal materials, which made him jealous. Although he has picked a lot of medicinal herbs these days, the girl is only 13 years old. If he had worked so hard back then, his achievements would not be what they are now. In the next 10 days, Yan Xianglou deliberately avoided meeting the disciples of the Xuanhuan sect and practiced alone. With a few days left, she was already at the peak of the 9th level of the UN level, so she started walking to the gathering place. In the past few days, she had focused on practicing and accumulating spiritual power, hoping to break through to the spiritual level before leaving. The elder who protected her saw that she was walking back, and there were no high-level monsters on the way back, so he stopped following her and left first to go to the gathering place to wait for the disciples to return. The returning disciples would also be sent back in batches. Of the sect. Tomorrow is the last day of the 1-month training period. In the evening, Yan Xianglou finally touched the threshold of advancement. She immediately went to the cave where she met Xuanhuan. No one will bother her when she advances there. Although she can also enter the space to advance, except for the 2 times she entered the space at the beginning, she has never entered it again in the past month. Although she does not want to rely on space, she is mainly worried that if someone sees her and discovers that she has a personal space, it will be detrimental to her. In order to protect her life, she is not prepared to tell anyone that she has Pangu space. This is why the elders who protected her didn't realize that she had a carry-on space. The cave was quiet and dark. She took out the luminous pearl and put it aside, letting the clouds guard her at the entrance of the cave. She sat down cross-legged and began to absorb spiritual energy in preparation for breaking through the spiritual level. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 54. Chapter 54 Breaking Through the Spiritual Level. This promotion is different from previous promotions. The cultivation levels are 9 levels: Shi, Yuan, Ling, King, Zun, Zone, Emperor, Saint, and Shen. Each level also has 9 sub-levels. Except for the entry-level Sergeant level, which is very easy. As long as you awaken your spiritual roots, you can enter the Sergeant level and start practicing. Every other level is a hurdle. The higher the level, the more difficult it is. Therefore, even though she advanced smoothly after entering the UN level and it took a very short time, it was a level within the UN level. Now she has to break through the spirit level, although it is not the 3 levels of the Pangu flower blossom cultivation technique. But this is what normal monks will encounter. She did not dare to take it lightly, so she was more focused than any other promotion. The golden nascent soul in the Danshan also began to absorb spiritual energy. The golden flowers on the head floated and rotated faster than before. This time Yan Xianglou felt the huge vortex formed by the spiritual energy coming from her body, covering her whole body. The Danshan is absorbing spiritual energy at an unprecedented speed. The Danshan is like a bottomless pit, and the spiritual energy disappears without a trace once it enters. Zhikong and 4 other people came to the cave. As soon as they entered the cave entrance, they saw Xuanhuan baring his teeth and warning them not to come in. Zhikong was stunned. That girl was actually in the cave? Sensing the crazily surging spiritual energy around him, he said to Xuanhuan, "Is your master advancing?" Xuanhuan looked at Zhikong warily and nodded. He had seen this man before. His master gave him many injections, but he couldn't let him in. The master was advancing and could not be disturbed. Zhikong nodded when he saw Xuanhuan. He knew in his heart that this spiritual beast was indeed extraordinary. It had actually opened up its spiritual intelligence, and its intelligence was not low. If we don't go in, we will guard at the entrance of the cave. We won't let anyone else in. You can rest assured to guard your master, Xuanhuan said to Xuanhuan, and then sat down cross-legged in the corridor at the entrance of the cave. Changfeng and Yu and Xian were other than him. Xuanhuan returned to the imperial city once because some old guys from the clan came to urge her to get married, but she failed to collect the herbs. After dealing with a few people, she came back again. This time they finally collected the herb. They were very tired from the battle with the high-level monsters. They thought of coming to this cave to rest for a night before leaving, but they didn't expect to meet Xianxia again. It just so happened that she was advancing again. Xuanhuan could sense that she was breaking through the spiritual level, otherwise she would not have caused such a large spiritual energy fluctuation. However, even if she broke through the spiritual level, her movements were too loud. He knew without thinking that the skills this girl practiced were extraordinary. In just over 2 months, she had already broken through the UN level to the spirit level. Speaking of which, who would dare to say that she is a waste with 5 spiritual roots? Seeing that they did not come in, Xuanhuan did not relax his vigilance. He kept staring at them closely, especially Yu. It sensed that this person did not like its owner. Xianxia was at the critical moment of promotion, and she didn't know that Xuanhuan was here again. She came to the cave several times a month and met Xuanhuan. What a fate! Time passed little by little, and finally, the light of promotion appeared, covering Xianxia, and the whirlpool of spiritual energy around her became larger and larger. The clouds were forced back into the corridor by the spiritual energy. Xuanhuan turned around and looked over, just in time to see the moment when Xianxia succeeded in promotion. A golden light penetrated into her baby point. The phoenix eyes shrank. Ancient skills. This kind of promotion light can only be found in ancient skills. No wonder Xianxia has been stuck at the 9th level of the sergeant level and has not been promoted. It turns out that it is the reason for the skills, and her modeled 5 spirit roots. Physical reasons. Xianxia successfully broke through to the spiritual level. She was in a very good mood and continued to absorb spiritual power to stabilize her cultivation. This had become her practice habit. No matter how high she is promoted, she must practice immediately to stabilize her cultivation. Because of her hard work, she is very solid at every level she advances to and can fight beyond the level. This practice lasted until the early morning of the next day. She opened her eyes and stretched out comfortably. Only then did Xianxia, who was in a very good mood, see Xuanhuan sitting at the entrance of the cave. Looking outside, there were Changfeng, Yu and Xian and 3 others. Xuanhuan jumped into her arms and communicated with her with his spiritual consciousness. They came just when the master was about to advance last night. They did not come in and guarded the entrance of the cave. Xianxia was a little surprised when he heard this. He stood up, walked to the entrance of the cave and said thank you very much. It takes a little effort. Xuanhuan also stood up. After a night of practice, he had recovered from fatigue. Today is our last day of training. I have to rush to the meeting place, so I won't stop any longer. Xianxia looked at the sky outside. It would take time for her to get to the meeting place. Okay, let's just say goodbye. Xuanhuan walked into the cave and got out of the way. Changfeng, Yu and Xian also entered the cave. Xianxia nodded to Changfeng and Xian and left the cave. He didn't even look at Yu. If you don't want to see me, I certainly don't want to see you either. Yu couldn't wait to see Xianxia fall even more. Master, Miss Yu has actually broken through to the spiritual level, Xian said in surprise. I saw that Xianxia was at the 6th level of the UN level before, and advanced to the 7th level in front of them. Now she has broken through to the spirit level. At this speed, only their master can compare with her. Ji Hong glanced at Xian and said, "This is just the beginning. The implication is that Yan Xiangluo will shock them even more in the future." Yan Xiangluo left the cave, took out the guide, and rushed to the meeting place according to the instructions of the guide. Although she was on the road, she was still absorbing spiritual energy and practicing. She arrived at the gathering place just after noon. The elder who had been secretly protecting her breathed a sigh of relief when he saw her. The girl came out safely, and he could explain to her master. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide. This girl actually advanced to the next level. After a month of training, she was promoted from the 6th level of the UN level to the spirit level. What kind of evil talent is this? Bai Tang Yunyu and the others had already returned. When they saw Yuan Xiangluo, he came over and said, "Hello, Uncle Yuan. Congratulations, you have broken through to the king level." Yan Xiangluo noticed that the aura on Bai Tang Yunyu's body was much stronger, and said with a smile. Bai Tang Yunyu smiled, "I did break through to the king level. I encountered a danger. Not to mention I saved my life, but I got a chance to break through and broke through to the king level. It's great, I can fly in the air." Yan Xiangluo envied him generously. I sighed in my heart, look, the opportunity was snatched away by others, but they still broke through to the king level. This is talent and strength. Miao Nagano's schemes will come to nothing. Uncle Jun has gained quite a lot, he has already reached the spiritual level. Bai Tang Yunfan was shocked. With such a promotion speed, it won't take long for Yan Xiangluo to become the number one person in the Xianyun sect. I have accumulated a lot of experience, it just happened by chance, Yan Xiangluo said modestly. Bai Tang Yunyu didn't believe that it was a coincidence that she was able to successfully break through the spirit level. He remembered that he had been stuck at the 9th level of the UN level for 2 years before he succeeded, and he had also been stuck at the 9th level of the spirit level for a whole year. If it hadn't been for this experience, I don't know when I would be able to break through. The new year has begun. I wish the beauties to start a new voyage. In the new year, I wish you good health, good luck, happiness, and a happy new year. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 55. Chapter 55 Exchange Proceeds. This also made Bai Tang Yunyu decide to take time out to practice twice a year in the future, so that he can achieve success in his cultivation. The king level is a hurdle for monks, but it is not the pinnacle of cultivation. There are also Zun, Zone, Emperor, Saint, and God levels above it. Although in this continent, they are at the top if they have cultivated to the zone level, but his goal is not the zone level. Level is to become a real strong man and go to the higher continental world. Uncle Yuan, everyone who comes back must register, and then we will be arranged to return to the section. Bai Tang Yunyu reminded Yuan Xiangluo. I'll go and register here. After Yan Xiangluo responded, she walked to the elder in charge of their experience and registered her cultivation level. The elder in charge of registration glanced at her. If the entire sect hadn't known that she was weak, he would have suspected that she had cheated and actually advanced to level 4. Since you have such strength, why were you so weak before? After registration, you will be assigned to a group and queue up to enter the teleportation array back to the sect. Yan Xiangluo looked around but didn't see Jin Xinrong. She was a little worried. Why hasn't she come back yet? Standing in the team, looking at the exit of the forest, Lu Yuexi looked at Yu Xiangluo with a sinister look. Not only did she not die inside, her cultivation level actually broke through to the spiritual level. She was only at the 6th level of the spiritual level. This time she was promoted to the 1st level. If she continues like this, she will be useless. How long will it take before Yan Xiangluo will completely crush her? She would never allow such a thing to happen. Finally, Yan Xiangluo saw Jin Xinrong come out. Everyone in their team was in a state of embarrassment, but being able to come out alive showed that their strength had been tempered, and Jin Xinrong's cultivation had also advanced to the first level. Jin Xinrong was also looking for her. When they saw her, they looked at each other and smiled. They did not go over to chat, but waited quietly for the transmission to start. After waiting for a while, the teleportation started. Yan Xiongluo's group was the third wave, and Miao Nagano's group was the first wave. Miao Changjai has been staring at Yan Xiongluo. He used to look down on her strength and just thought her face was pretty. Now he is watching Yan Xiongluo become stronger day by day, and her cultivation has advanced so fast, which puts him in crisis. Feel. The sect holds a competition at the end of every year, and he still wants to stand out among the newcomers. Yan Xiongluo entered the teleportation array and returned to the gate of Xianyuan sect mountain. Seeing that it was still early, she wanted to go down the mountain to sell the monsters and buy some daily necessities. She will not go down the mountain unless there is any special situation. She has not had time to refine alchemy this month. She came to Xianyuan sect to learn her skills. Next, she will spend all her time practicing, refining alchemy, refining poison, and improving her medical skills. She waited for a while, and when she saw Jin Xinrong coming out, she walked over and said, "Xinrong, I want to go down the mountain, will you go?" Jin Xinrong thought about her harvest and nodded, "Go and deal with this harvest and exchange it for some spiritual stones and daily necessities." Although she is an inner sect disciple, she still has to rely on herself if she wants to live a better life. The sect provides training resources for the first 3 years, and after 3 years, she has to rely on herself for food and training resources. Now you have to get used to relying on yourself. Yan Xiongluo whistled, and the white eagle fell from the sky. Jin Xinrong said happily, "I want to borrow your light. There is no need to walk down the mountain, which will save a lot of time." Yan Xiongluo pulled Jin Xinrong and sat on the back of the white eagle. "We still have to practice if we have time." The two little girls sat on the white eagle and headed down the mountain. Their embarrassment was simply cleaned up on the white eagle's back. "Where do you want to sell your harvest?" Yan Xiongluo asked. "Our Xianyuan sect has an exchange place in Xianyuan town. You can go directly to the sect and exchange it. At least you won't lie to us," Jin Xinrong said. Okay, Yan Xiongluo thought the same way. The two of them came to the Xianyuan sect office, which took care of all the affairs of the Xianyuan sect. Responsible for delivering news, receiving visitors, exchanging training gains for disciples, selling elixirs refined by the sect, etc., very complete. What Jin Xinrong came to sell this time was her own income, and the income from the team must be divided after going back and dividing it in detail or selling it collectively. Therefore, it was not a lot of things, but it made her very happy. This was the first time in her life that she got it with her own strength, and it was different from what her family gave her. The incense has fallen, it's time to take a rest. Yan Xiongluo glanced at the person in charge of the exchange and said, "Is there a spacious place? I have a lot of monsters and I can't fit them here." The man was startled. He knew that the sect organized disciples to go out for training this time, but how many monsters could a 13-year-old girl with a cultivation level of the spirit level hunt? But since she said so, he took her to the yard behind. "Can I put it down here?" "Yes." When Yan Xiongluo responded, with a thought, he took out all the monster beasts he had hunted this time, including the spotted snakes that the sect had obtained in the previous assessment. He also took them out and piled them up in the yard. A hill. Not only the exchanger was stunned, but Jin Xinrong was also stunned. Her good mood was suddenly wiped out. "Xiongluo, how come you hunted so many monsters by yourself?" "Keep looking for monsters to fight," Yan Xiongluo said matter-of-factly. The monsters she hunted were all selected by Yun Tuan for her. On average, she had to fight at least twice a day, so the number of monsters she hunted was quite large. No wonder you have been promoted to the spiritual level. Jin Xinrong was at the second level of the spiritual level when she came to Xianyunzong for the assessment. She was promoted once this time and is now the third level of the spiritual level. She still feels that she has worked hard and there are still people who have not advanced. Well, she was at least promoted to one level. But now compared with Yan Xiangluo, she is embarrassed to say that she has worked hard enough. The person in charge of the exchange was stunned for a moment and quickly calculated how many spirit stones the monster could exchange for. Yu Xiangluo said that she only wanted spirit stones. She knew that the higher the level of cultivation, if the spiritual energy absorbed alone was not enough, a lot of spiritual stones would be consumed. Although she didn't know if she would need it, it was still right to be prepared. After all, she has no family support behind her. There has been no news about the original owner's parents, and it is not known whether she is alive or dead. Although the master was very kind to her, he couldn't let her spend money to give her the spiritual stones to practice. Therefore, the only one she could rely on was herself. After calculating for a while, the exchanger finally calculated the amount. In fact, Yan Xiangluo had already calculated the amount. Seeing that the exchanger did not fool her because of the monster's many deceptions, she felt quite good about him. This time she exchanged a total of 5,000 high-grade spiritual stones, which made Jin Xinrong envious. Xiangluo, you are so rich. Yan Xiangluo laughed and said, whatever this is, it's not enough for cultivation. Just say what you said to me. If others hear it, they will definitely think you are laughing at them. Jin Xinrong rolled her eyes at her. Yan Xiangluo nodded seriously, I only have you as my friend. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 56. Chapter 56. I don't know. When Jin Xinrong heard what she said, she sighed. Everyone was repelling Xiangluo, but they were just jealous of her good looks, but there was nothing she could do about it. Her parents gave it to her, and it was useless to be jealous. Fortunately, Xiangluo had a good attitude. I'm going to buy something. Do you need to sell anything? Yan Xiangluo asked Jin Xinrong. I've exchanged everything. If I don't want to buy any more, I'll go shopping with you. Jin Xinrong has no shortage of daily necessities for the time being. The two went shopping together in Xianyun town. Yan Xiangluo bought a lot of daily necessities, especially seasonings for cooking. Finally, she walked into a store selling weapons. When she went out for training this time, she realized that although she was used to using Flying Lotus, sometimes she still needed a hard weapon in battle, which was more convenient. So she wanted to see if there were any suitable weapons and buy one. She would probably have it when she went out to practice in the future, so she had better prepare it first. Going in, you can see that there are all kinds of weapons, but they are mainly long swords. This is also because most people are willing to use swords. Yan Xiangluo looked around but couldn't find a satisfactory weapon. Leaving the weapons shop, Jin Xinrong said, do you want to buy weapons? Well, there's nothing suitable. The inner disciples of the sect can go to the sect's weapons depot to choose a weapon. Why do you have to spend money to buy it? Jin Xinrong asked doubtfully. Yu Xiang paused, she really didn't know about this. I have no idea. Jin Xinrong was speechless. She was so focused on practicing alchemy on Qianda Peak that she didn't know anything else. He sighed and said, new inner sect disciples can go to the weapon library to choose a weapon. They don't have to return it even if they come down the mountain after completing the training. They can also go to the Kung Fu building to choose a book of Kung Fu, but they can only borrow it. Kung Fu different, the return time is different. In the sect competition at the end of the year, new disciples compete individually, and the top 10 will receive generous rewards. Of course, The higher the ranking, the more generous the rewards. Jin Xinrong kindly told her in detail what she knew about the benefits that new disciples should have and some of the sect's rules. Only then did Yan Xiangluo understand that it was no wonder that everyone wanted to be an inner disciple. The welfare benefits were not generally good. In this case, she is not in a hurry to buy weapons. She can go to the weapons arsenal sometime and have a look. Maybe she can choose the weapon she likes. The two of them rode the White Eagle back to the section. They didn't even need to get down when they reached the mountain gate. Everyone knew that the White Eagle was the mount of the disciple of the master of Qiandu Peak. Sent Jin Xinrong to where she lives, Yan Xiangluo and Jin Xinrong made an appointment to go to the weapons depot to choose weapons together tomorrow, and then return to Qiandu Peak. The master of Thousand Poison Peak has heard from the elder about his young apprentice's experience, and he is very satisfied. Seeing with my own eyes that my little apprentice came back in high spirits, and that his cultivation has reached the spiritual level, I feel proud and happy at the same time. Good. Yan Xiangluo saluted her master and then said arrogantly, "Master, I hunted many monsters and exchanged them for 5,000 high-grade spiritual stones." "Why have you exchanged it for spiritual stones?" asked the master of Thousand Poison Peak. "Little girls like beautiful things, why don't you buy some clothes and jewelry?" "Keep it for future practice," Yan Xiangluo said seriously. The master of Thousand Poison Peaks then realized that the young apprentice had no family and had to rely on himself for everything. "Master will prepare enough spiritual stones for you to practice." "That's because Master loves me, and I can't be just like a rice bug." Yuan Xiangluo smiled and narrowed her almond-shaped eyes. After hearing her words, the master of Thousand Poison Peak felt that his little apprentice was too sensible, so sensible that it made people feel distressed. "Good, ambitious. Master, this is the spiritual beast I met in Wanghai Forest. I made a contract with it. I named it Yun Tuan." Yan Xiangluo moved Yun Tuan out of the space and showed it to Master. Yun Tuan, who was practicing in the space, was suddenly moved out. He opened his dark eyes and looked at the Master of Thousand Poison Peak. The Master of Thousand Poison Peaks looked at Yun Tuan. Although he did not sense how powerful the spiritual power was on Yun Tuan, he felt a strong pressure on it and knew that the origin of this little thing might be extraordinary. "It's okay, let's be a companion." He only accepted a little apprentice. The little girl is indeed a little lonely. She has a spiritual pet who can be a companion. Yun Tuan is very good, he is just greedy. Yan Xiangluo smiled and rubbed Yun Tuan's soft little body. "Master, I'm not a glutton, I just like delicious food." Yun Tuan protested. "Well, you like delicious food." Yan Xiangluo didn't argue with her. Looking at his young apprentice happily interacting with his spiritual pet, the master of Thousand Poison Peak showed an old father's smile. "I haven't seen Master for a month. I'm going to make some delicious food for Master." Yun Xiangluo hugged Yun Tuan and ran towards the kitchen. This time she hunted a lot of edible spiritual beasts. In addition to the foodie Yun Tuan, she also wanted to make some delicious food for her master and ancestors. The master of Thousand Poison Peak looked at his young apprentice's back and smiled. He really missed his young apprentice's cooking skills. Yan Xiangluo was busy in the kitchen, while Yun Tuan squatted on her shoulders and watched her cooking delicious food. This was different from being in the forest. This was freshly cooked food. Just smelling the smell made him so greedy that he had no intention of practicing. After being busy for most of an hour, Yan Xiangluo prepared the food, separated the food from the clouds for it, and put it on the kitchen table for it to eat. "Send it to the master, and then tell the master to go and send food to the master." The master of Qiandu Peak stopped her. "Xiaoluo, please rest. I'll take it to your master after eating." "That's fine." Yan Xiangluo put the food box on the master's table and ran to the kitchen to eat with Yun Tuan. She had eaten and drank enough, but she didn't take any rest. She hadn't made an elixir for a month, and she was going to start making an elixir today. In the past month, She refined all the first-grade elixirs given to her by her master, as well as the poison pills that her master taught her. Now she can refine the second-grade elixirs. Alchemy requires a lot of medicinal materials. Even if she rarely wastes medicinal herbs, the amount of medicinal materials required is quite large. Fortunately, she went out for training this time and carefully picked herbs. She had all the medicinal materials for the second-grade elixir prescription, and she had even collected most of the medicinal materials for the third-grade elixir prescription. This way there is no need for the master to give her medicinal herbs. After dinner, the master of Xianxia saw that his young apprentice had already started refining elixirs. He felt that his young apprentice was too worry-free. She was the only disciple in the entire Xuanhuan sect who worked so hard. Carrying a food box, he went to deliver meals to his master. When Master Qian heard that Yu Xianglou had come back, he cooked delicious food for them. After eating, he began to make elixirs. He always felt comforted in his heart. She was the first junior to work so hard and be filial. Even her disciples, even the proud Yao Tu was also very naughty and playful back then. In 3 days, I will take the girl out for a trip, Master Qian he said to Yao Tu. Well, I'll tell her when we get back. The master of Xianxia knew where the master was taking Xiaoluo, and he also hoped that Xiaoluo could do it, and it would be good for Xiaoluo. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 57. Chapter 57 Choosing Weapons. Yan Xianglou couldn't stop refining the elixir. She kept refining one elixir recipe after another. The second-grade elixir recipe was not the first-grade one, and the difficulty was not low. But she still did not fail. She always succeeded in the first attempt, but no perfect quality elixir appeared. Early the next morning, she went to the master's house feeling a little depressed. The master of Thousand Poison Peak was a little confused when he saw her depressed look. He didn't hear the furnace explode that night, so why wasn't she happy? Xiaoluo, what's wrong? Master, I haven't refined a single perfect quality elixir, Yuan Xianglou said depressedly. The leader of Thousand Poison Peaks twitched his lips and asked, what quality are these elixirs? Top grade. Yan Xianglou lowered his head and looked very depressed. The master of Thousand Poison Peak felt that if this person were not his disciple, he would beat him up. She was still not satisfied that the first refining was successful and it was still a top grade one. However, he also knew that the young apprentice's alchemy talent was indeed extraordinary, so he asked her about her alchemy techniques. There is nothing wrong with the refining technique. Although second-grade elixirs are indeed more difficult than first-grade elixirs, the techniques for refining the elixirs are the same. You must be anxious. In any practice, it is taboo to be impatient and angry. Don't rush for success. You are only 13 years old, nothing can be achieved overnight, just calm down and try again, the effect may be better. After listening to her master's words, Yan Xianglou thought that she was indeed a little eager for success. She wanted to learn all the elixir recipes as soon as possible and become a master of alchemy. Naturally, being impatient would lead to not being careful, and it was normal for her to be unable to refine elixirs of perfect quality. I understand. Yan Xianglou told her master that she was going to the weapons arsenal to choose a weapon. The master of Thousand Poison Peak nodded and said, go ahead. The weapons in the arsenal are all good, and some of them have some origins. It's okay if you can't choose the one you like. I'll find you a master of whatever kind you want. Yan Xianglou thanked her master, exited his room, and took the White Eagle down the mountain. She found Jin Xinrong, and the two of them walked to the weapons warehouse together. The weapons depot and the Kung Fu Hall are both on the mountain behind the inner gate. Two buildings of the same height stand among the green trees, one on each side, like two patron saints guarding the Xuanhuan sect. Most of the new inner disciples have already arrived. Jin Xinrong, for example, has weapons prepared for her by her family, so she is not in a hurry. Yan Xiangluo doesn't know about it. Entering the gate, the person guarding the weapons depot inside glanced at the two of them and said, "Sect token." Whether he is a new disciple or not, you can tell by looking at the sect token. The two of them took out the tokens. After reading it, the man registered their names. As soon as he raised his hand, a ray of spiritual power fell on a door, and the door opened. There are 3 floors in total. You can go up as long as you can. You only have 1 stick of incense, so hurry up and you will be sent out automatically when the time is up. The two of them nodded and walked towards the open door. Once inside, Yan Xiangluo found that Jin Xinrong had disappeared. There must be a setting inside so that no matter how many people came in, they could not see each other. There was not much time, and she did not dare to delay. After all, if she could choose a weapon that she liked in the arsenal, she could save a lot of spiritual stones. The first floor is full of weapons, hung, displayed, piled, long, short, multifunctional, everything is available, but just like the shops selling weapons, most of them are long swords. Yang Xianglu walked around the first floor, but there was no weapon that she liked at first sight, so she decisively went up to the second floor. The quality of the weapons on the second floor was obviously much better than that on the first floor. She looked at them one by one, but there was no one she liked. Turning around and walking to the third floor, the weapons inside were obviously much smaller than those on the first and second floors, but they were all suspended in mid-air, which looked a bit scary at first glance. More than half of the time had passed, and she could only choose one she liked on the third floor. She didn't let Yun Tuan help. She wanted to choose a weapon that she liked, and it didn't have to be a treasure. The most important thing is that she has seen the weapons on the third floor. She doesn't like the weapons on the first and second floors. Her apricot eyes turned rapidly, passing over each weapon. Suddenly, her eyes fell on a shining golden spear. A spear is a long instrument, a weapon suitable for thrusting. It evolved from a spear and consists of a spear head, a spear tassel, and a spear shaft. The spear in front of her was very special. There was no spear, only the head and barrel. The head of the spear is 7 inches long by visual inspection. Its square edges are as flat as buckwheat. The tip of the spear is extremely sharp, making it perfect for penetration. This spear style is the most common spear style, but it is very golden. The gun shaft is not made of wooden material, but more like a weapon refiner using some special material to refine it. Although it looked shiny, Yan Xiangluo was sure that it was definitely not made of gold. In an instant, all the weapons lost their color in her eyes, and her almond-shaped eyes stared at the golden spear. That's it? Yan Xiangluo walked over and reached out to hold the barrel of the spear. The barrel trembled but did not repel her. At this moment, the time came, and a white light flashed in front of Yu Xiangluo's eyes, and she had left the weapons depot. Jin Xinrong was also sent out with a long sword. The person guarding the weapons depot was startled when he saw the long gun in her hand. You went to the third floor. Yan Xiangluo nodded. There were no weapons I liked on the first and second floors, so I went to the third floor and fell in love with this spear at first sight. The person guarding the weapons depot looked at her with complicated eyes. How did you get to the third floor? Yan Xiangluo's big eyes suddenly flashed and she said, You're going up there. Humbling in my heart, why don't I just go up and climb up? Jin Xinrong said in surprise, Why can't I walk up? I can only go to the second floor, and it's very difficult to walk. Yan Xiangluo was stunned for a moment, and then she understood why the person guarding the weapons depot was so surprised. It turned out that not everyone could go to the third floor. No wonder he said before that if they could go up, they could go to the second and third floors to choose weapons. She glanced at Jin Xinrong with some embarrassment. She seemed a little different, but she did not encounter any obstacles at all. Jin Xinrong was speechless looking at the golden spear in her hand. You said you've already gone to the third floor, why didn't you choose a weapon suitable for a girl? You saw that girl using such a heavy spear. Actually, she also wanted to say, could you have a better taste? Did you see it shining brightly in your eyes? Too tacky. Yan Xianglou held the spear and said happily, I like spears. I fell in love with it when I saw it. Jin Xinrong was speechless. What else could she say if someone liked her? Besides, she had already taken it out and couldn't go back in to return it. This was the only way. Thinking about how the beautiful girl would dance with a golden spear in her hand, she shivered, as if it was a bit irritating to her eyes. The person guarding the weapons depot finally came to his senses, registered the weapons she got, and then asked her to sign to prove that she had indeed taken the spear. Yan Xianglou looked down and realized that the spear had a name. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 58. Chapter 58 Changling Spear Technique. Changling is the name of this spear. Yan Xianglou signed her name, and the person guarding the weapons arsenal said to her, this spear is yours. Yan Xianglou nodded happily, looking at the spear in her hand the more she liked it. Jin Xinrong's weapons were also registered. After she signed her name, she pulled Xianglou and walked out. As she walked, she said, Xianglou, you'd better put away the spear first. It's too glaring. It's a bit eye-catching, my spear is so beautiful. Yan Xianglou put the spear into Pangu space. Jin Xinrong twitched the corner of her mouth. Her friend had some problems with her eyesight, and she put away her long sword while muttering in her heart. I'm going to go to the Kung Fu Hall. Do you want to go? Jin Xinrong asked. She didn't want to waste the opportunity that only new disciples had. It would be a great blessing if she could find a technique that suited her. Originally, Yan Xianglou didn't want to go, but now that she has chosen a spear as a weapon, she needs a spear skill, so she can't just stab her with a spear. That would be meaningless. Go, Yan Xianglou responded, and the two of them walked to the Kung Fu Hall together. After the two left, the person guarding the weapons depot immediately went to Xuanhuan Peak to report to the sect master that there were weapons on the third floor that had been taken away by new disciples. The sect leader was surprised when he heard that the Changling spear had been taken away by Yan Xianglou. He had never expected this. After all, even men were unwilling to choose the Changling spear as a weapon. How could a little girl choose such a domineering one? What about weapons? At this time, Yan Xianglou and Jin Xinrong had arrived at the Kung Fu Hall. The Gongfa Hall is also a 3-story building, and you also need to register with a sect token. There is also a time limit after entering, but the time is longer than choosing a weapon. You can stay for half an hour. After entering, the two of them were still separated. Yang Xianglou's eyes were clear and she began to look for the skills of the spear. From the first floor to the second floor, and finally to the third floor, she didn't find a book about spear skills. Finally, her eyes fell on an inconspicuous box in the corner. The other exercises are all listed on the outside. Why is there a box here? What's in it? Anyway, she didn't find the skill about the spear, and the other skills were useless to her. Even if she wasted this opportunity, she would not take away a book of skills that she didn't use. After all, she had to give it back. She walked to the box. The box was very old and had a long-lasting feeling. It was made of wood. She reached out and opened the box. She opened the box easily. There was a jade slip inside. What kind of skill was this? It needs to be passed down using jade slips, so it shouldn't be a simple technique. She picked up the jade slip and saw 2 characters Changling on the jade slip. Hey, why did it have the same name as her spear? Is this a spear technique? She remembered that when she read fantasy novels, in this case, she had to input spiritual power and get the jade slip's approval, so that the skills in it could enter her consciousness. She mobilized her spiritual power to input it into the jade slip, and sure enough, a golden light flew out of the jade slip and into the center of her eyebrows, and the jade slip turned into dots of starlight and disappeared. There was something extra in her consciousness, and at first glance, it turned out to be marksmanship. Yuan Xianglue was very happy. Happily she came to the Kung Fu Hall, otherwise, she would have missed out on the Changling Spear Kung Fu. She briefly looked at it. The main gun skills include stabbing, tartling, attacking, entangling, circling, blocking, taking, jumping, pointing, poking, dancing, etc. Lam itself is a herbaceous plant, but it has the meaning of perseverance, strength, and tenacity. It was named Changling. The person who refined this spear probably hoped that the owner of the spear would be a person with a strong will. Now combined with the skill, the spear suddenly felt like it was alive in front of her. It seems that I will have to learn more in the future, and I must be as familiar with the Changling spear as I am with the flying lotus. She found the exercises she wanted. She was worried. All the exercises had to be returned. Hers were in her consciousness. The jade slip was gone. How could she return it? Looking at the box again, the box has disappeared. What should I do? She went out depressedly and truthfully told the person guarding the Kung Fu Hall what had happened. The person was extremely surprised. Wait, I want to report to the sect master and wait for the sect master's decision. Okay, I'll wait here. Yan Xianglue felt a little uneasy. I don't know how the sect leader will punish her. Within a moment, not only the sect leader arrived, but also the other peak leaders of the 6 peaks, including her master, of course. Xiao Luo, have you got the Changling spear and the technique? The master of Qiandu Peak walked in with a smile on his face. Yes, master, I got the Changling spear, and I wanted to come to the Kung Fu Hall to choose a book on the spear's exercises, but there was none. When I saw a box, I opened it and took a look. The jade slip inside had the word Changling on it. I think this is the Changling spear technique. I just input my spiritual power and try it, the technique will enter my consciousness, the box and the jade slip will disappear, I won't go back. Although she was telling her master, she was also explaining the process to everyone. There is no need to pay it back. Since the Changling spear and Kung Fu have chosen you, you are the destined one, Qiandu Peak master said. Yan Xiang felt relieved and looked at the sect master. After all, the sect master still had to say something about this matter. Although his master was the sect master's uncle, what was his identity? He had to be treated as an official. The sect leader saw her gaze and nodded. There is no need to return any jade slips in the Kung Fu Hall that have been approved. This time Yan Xianglue felt her heart return to her stomach. How did the junior sister get the long caltrip spear? Asked the sect leader. Yan Xianglue told what happened, and everyone had a look that was hard to explain. When did a person with spiritual level cultivation on the 3rd floor be able to easily go up and take out the weapons inside? Does the practice get approval just because it says it's approved? The master of Thousand Poison Peak didn't like the crowd surrounding his apprentice asking questions, so he directly said to the person guarding the Kung Fu Hall, "Hurry up and register, we are going back." The person guarding the exercise hall glanced at the sect master, immediately registered the name of the exercise, and then asked Yan Xianglue to sign his name. The master of Thousand Poison Peak left with his disciple in a swaggering manner. Back at Qiandu Peak, the master and apprentice were sitting in the living room. Yan Xianglue looked at her master, knowing that the master had something to say to her. "Xiao Luo, do you know the origin of the Changling spear?" asked the master of Qiandu Peak. Yan Xianglue shook her head. To be honest, she felt a little guilty. She had been in Xuanhuan sect for a month, but she was devoted to alchemy and practice and did not understand the history of Xuanhuan sect at all. It seemed that she was not a qualified Xuanhuan section disciple of the sect. It seems that she is going to read all the history books about Xuanhuan section. She cannot be ignorant of everything. It is too embarrassing. The master of Thousand Poison Peak sighed and looked at his young apprentice. What kind of luck did this child have to choose the long caltrop spear? Even he didn't expect that she would choose the long caltrop spear when she said she went to the weapons arsenal to choose a weapon. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 59. Chapter 59. The Origin of the Gun. The Master of Thousand Poison Peaks sounded much more serious. The Changling Spear is the weapon of Mu Changling, the founder of our Xuanhuan section. At first, the master was an alchemist and also a weapon refiner. This Changling Spear was refined by him because he liked to use his own name too much. Give it a name. Yuan Xianglue was extremely shocked. She really didn't expect that the Changling Spear was actually a weapon personally refined by the founder of the Xuanhuan sect. No wonder even the sect leader came, looking very shocked. This Changling Spear has always been with the master. After breaking through the sect level, the master will leave our continent and go to a higher world. However, Xuanhuan sect was established by him with his own hands. If he does not worry about future generations of sect disciples, he will. The Changling Spear, the weapon that had been with him for decades, was left behind, as well as his own Changling Spear technique. The master said that he hoped to see Xuanhuan using the Changling Spear in a higher continent during his lifetime. A disciple of the section. Unfortunately, the master has been away for 3,600 years, and no disciple of the Xuanhuan sect has been recognized by the Changling Spear. Thousand Poison Peaks words ignited a sense of ambition in Yan Xiangluo's heart. Since Changling Spear chose her without any resistance, does it mean that she has the talent to go to a higher world? However, she was a little discouraged when she thought about the wish of the founder. Even if she could go to a higher world, 3,600 years have passed, and the founder would be gone long ago. Although she knew that the higher the cultivation level of monks in the higher world, the longer their lifespan, she did not know the exact lifespan. Besides, there are so many powerful people in the higher world, so life cultivation must be even more difficult. However, even if she could no longer see the founder of the mountain, Yan Xiangluo still felt a surge of ambition in her heart. She must take the Changling Spear to a higher world. Both the weapons depot and the Kung Fu Hall have restrictions set by the founding master. Only those who can be recognized by the above Kung Fu can go up. Very few people can go up on the third floor of the weapons depot. From the time when the master left until now, no one can go up. There are no more than 10 people. The master of Qiandu Peak stretched out his hand and made a gesture. Yan Xiangluo looked at her master's palm in surprise, and then she understood why the person guarding the weapon was so shocked when he found out that she went up to the third floor without any hindrance. Xiao Luo, do you now know what kind of weapon you got and what kind of responsibility you have? Asked the master of Qiandu Peak after explaining. Yan Xiangluo raised her eyes and looked at her master with firm and confident eyes. Master, my greatest wish in this life is to become a strong man. I must go to a higher world in my lifetime, step on the land of the 9 heavens, and look at the evergreen trees that bloom once every 1,000 years as long as the heaven and earth live. The girl's delicate face seemed to be glowing, and she exuded a kind of heroic spirit that even the masters of Thousand Poison Peaks would envy. She once had this kind of aura, but after decades of erosion, not much was left. Although I still hold the belief that I can leave here one day, I am no longer as firm and confident as before. Looking at his beloved disciple, the master of Qiandu Peak seemed to have seen his former self, and sighed. Xiao Luo, the journey of cultivation is not as simple as you think. How many people want to leave this continent, but there are not many who can really leave. How many people? If you can still maintain your original intention and believe in it 10 years later, you will already have an excellent character. But what about 20 or 30 years later? Xianxia was stunned and immediately understood what the master meant. The master Qin He, and even other uncles who were close, the strong men of other major sects who were far away, and the strong men of the entire continent, all of them did not leave here with their arms in their arms. The belief in going to a higher world, but they have not crossed that gap when they are already old. Can they still have the same belief as they do now? Facts are definitely a fatal blow to a person's confidence. Although you can go to higher continents as long as you break through to the zone level, there are many strong people who stagnated in their cultivation at the peak of the zone level until their longevity is exhausted and their body and soul disappear, but there are only a few who can leave here. This reminded her of the original owner's parents. Only she knew what happened to them. They also went there to go to a higher continent. There is no news until now. Whether they succeeded or failed, she doesn't know. But everyone thought her parents had failed. I understand, Master, don't worry, I won't aim too high, the Changling spear will always remind me what to do. Xianxia calmed down, knowing that she was still young and energetic after all. The Master of Thousand Poison Peak nodded happily. Xiao has a clear mind. Master is at ease with you, but... Xianxia looked at her master with watery eyes. Since you got the Changling spear, you have become the first person that the sect pays attention to. From today on, Xiao will practice in seclusion at Qiandu Peak. The Master of Thousand Poison Peaks understands that if he could let his young apprentice practice and learn alchemy freely before, he can no longer do so. Every action of the little girl will be associated with the Changling spear by the sect members, and they will compare her with the founder of the mountain at any time. Everyone has jealousy, and gossip is an invisible murder weapon. The only way to protect her is to prevent her from facing those things until she becomes stronger. Even if the little girl grew up in rumors, with him as her master, she didn't want her to bear those anymore. Although Xianxia didn't know what her master was thinking, she also knew that if she got the weapon of the founder of the mountain, she would definitely become the target of public criticism. The master's decision was to protect her. Staying on the mountain and focusing on cultivating and improving her cultivation level is what she is currently doing. The best choice. Originally, she wanted to focus on practicing and learning alchemy, but now she had to learn Changling spear, and she had no time to go down the mountain. Master, I understand. From today on, my disciple will practice at Qiandu Peak and will never go down the mountain without Master's permission, Xianxia responded. The Changling spear is a heavy weapon. It is different from other weapons. If you want to learn the Changling spear technique, you must first improve your physical strength, the Master of Qiandu Peak reminded his apprentice. Xianxia was stunned for a moment. Thinking of the weight of the long caltrip spear, she understood what the master meant. Master, are you just like those warriors who cannot cultivate spiritual power and need to cultivate their vitality? At this time, Xianxia somewhat understood why monks all chose long swords as weapons. Although long swords also have weight, the weight does not prevent them from using them, so there is no need to cultivate the warrior's vitality. It's not necessary to cultivate your vitality after all, you use spiritual power when fighting, but it is necessary to strengthen your body, the Master of Thousand Poison Peak suggested. In fact, the founding master cultivated spiritual power and vitality together. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 60. Chapter 60 Her Choice. But after all, there is only one evil genius like the master. If his delicate and soft little apprentice wants to cultivate vitality, he is really reluctant to part with it. Xianxia was silent for a moment and said, "Did the founding master cultivate vitality in the first place?" Although she knows that she can't bite off more than she can chew, and although cultivating her vitality will take up most of her time, it is not without its benefits. When her spiritual power is exhausted, Her vitality can also be life-saving. The master of Thousand Poison Peak was startled, and he obviously understood what his young apprentice meant. The founding master is a dual practitioner, elixir refining and weapon refining, spiritual power and vitality, but the master paid a high price. He never married, except for dealing with for important matters in the sect. All the energy and time are spent on cultivation. This is only possible if he has a strong talent. The implication is that not everyone has the talent and perseverance of the founder. The founder gave up too much. Xianxia thought for a moment and said, "Master, please help me find a way to cultivate my vitality." "Are you sure?" The master of Thousand Poison Peak frowned. "A person's energy is limited. She has already practiced alchemy, poison refining and cultivation at the same time. If she practices Yuan Qi again, it is different from learning other skills. Yuan Qi is much more difficult to cultivate than spiritual Qi. Since the Changling Spear has chosen me, I absolutely cannot let it down. If I don't cultivate my vitality, when my spiritual energy is exhausted, I will not be able to use the Changling Spear. The shooting skills of the Changling Spear are extremely mysterious. I don't want to bury the Changling Spear's skills. Edge, why else would the founding master need to practice both spiritual energy and vitality?" "Master, don't worry, I won't be too ambitious. I will arrange my time well and not delay my spiritual energy and alchemy training," said Yu Xianglego in a firm tone. Although monks mainly use spiritual power to fight in order to maximize the power of the five elements, for weapons, both spiritual power and vitality can be used. Although cultivating vitality will make you busier, you will encounter dangers in the future. When you do this, you will know how worthwhile today's busyness is. The master of Thousand Poison Peak looked at her silently and saw that she did not flinch at all. He sighed and said, "Since you have decided, Master will help you find a method to cultivate your vitality. I hope you will never forget your original intention." "Master, don't worry. What I said is my decision after careful consideration. I will definitely do it if I say it," Yan Xiangleo said decisively and resolutely. "She will live a new life. She cherishes the hard-earned healthy body and the road to strength more than anyone else. It was her unchanging choice." Ruan Xiangleo returned to her room, and with a thought, a golden long caltrip gun appeared in her hand. Because there was no tassel, the whole long caltrip gun looked golden, but the style was very simple. The golden color actually makes the whole gun not conspicuous at all. The weight of the long spear is not light, and she needs to use her spiritual power to hold it. She pressed it with her hand, and the barrel of the gun trembled. This was the advantage of the long spear. It could be bent and easily change directions to attack. This time out for training, Yan Xiangleo understood that monsters are much stronger than humans in terms of physical toughness and monster power, so she wanted a weapon that could be both sharp and powerful when fighting monsters. A weapon that breaks through the tough skin of monsters. From the beginning, she excluded the long sword commonly used by monks. When she first saw the long sword, she knew it was the weapon she wanted. Gently stroking the Changling spear, Yu Xiangleo said in a low voice, "Is the founder of the mountain still there? Do you want to meet your former master? How about we go together?" The long rhombus gun made a buzzing sound, as if in response to her. Yan Xiangleo smiled brightly, "That's it, we must not let master down." Although she didn't know what material the Changling spear was made of, Jin Xuanhuan opened fire with her nascent soul and pangu. "The flower in Tiangong technique has the same color, but I feel very friendly." Although she didn't like such nouveau riche colors in her previous life, she likes them very much in this life because of her nascent soul. It doesn't matter if it's flamboyant or not. She is in no hurry to practice marksmanship. After all, her physical strength is not good enough now, and forcing her to practice marksmanship is just a show. Putting away the Changling spear, she crossed her legs and closed her eyes. The Changling spear technique was displayed in her consciousness. She studied each movement one by one and practiced it repeatedly in her mind. Only when she remembered them all well did she take out the alchemy furnace. Prepare to continue making alchemy. Although she has to learn one more thing, she can distinguish the priorities. Alchemy and cultivation are the main ones. Even if the vitality cannot be cultivated to a high level for a while, she can still fight with the long diamond spear using spiritual power. Because of her master's advice, she no longer rushed to refine all the second-grade elixirs, but focused on refining one of them. Sure enough, after she stopped being impatient, she refined another elixir of perfect quality. Now her alchemy furnace is Xianhuan. On the day she got Xianhuan and when she made the contract, she heard Xianhuan's voice, but it never communicated with her spiritual consciousness again. No matter how she communicated with him, it was still there. There was no response, just like Xianhuan had no spiritual consciousness in the first place. Yanxiangluo didn't know the reason, but it didn't delay her use, and after changing to Xianhuan for alchemy, it was indeed much easier to use than the alchemy furnace she bought with 10 low-grade spiritual senses, and it was easier to control the heat. The same, she could still feel the difference in the perfect quality elixir. One night passed, and she refined 3 second-grade elixirs, all of which were of perfect quality. At dawn, she went to the kitchen to make breakfast after washing herself, and sent the master's breakfast to his room. She ate in the kitchen, packed it up, and then walked to the side facing the mountains behind Qiandu Peak. It was also the side facing the room where she lived. This side is almost like a cliff. This is where she went down to catch the spirit beasts, but she went down on a white eagle. The master found exercises for her to cultivate her vitality, but her physical strength still needs to be exercised by herself. To cultivate her vitality, her physical strength needs to keep up. The only way she could think of to exercise was to climb mountains, no, to be precise, climb cliffs. She decided to crawl back every day after breakfast, and then learn alchemy from her master. Although she did not use her spiritual power during the crawling process, it did not delay her practice of spiritual power. It actually kills 2 birds with 1 stone, which is why she insists on practicing vitality. She can practice spiritual energy anytime and anywhere. She never procrastinates when making decisions. She bends down and goes down the cliff. She does not need spiritual power, but needs the strength of her arms and legs. It is similar to the rock climbing she saw in her previous life. This is the fastest way she can think of. Ways to build your own physical strength. It is very dangerous to go down with your own strength without using spiritual power. If you are not careful, you will be doomed. But she is not afraid. The white eagle given to her by her master is here, and the white eagle will catch her accurately. End of this chapter.